Thank you again for all your comments. Suyos says Zelensky has thanked Johnson and Sunak for his pocket money. Smog is in Parliament as a non-entity. The UK deserves better. I think it suddenly struck me that the name smog is not quite the best put down in terms of nomenclature. I think smug might be a much better name for Jacob Rees-Smug. As for um, this whole idea of Brexit and whether or not we can find any Brexit benefits from the last year, I certainly can't. And if there were Brexit benefits, I think people would be flagging them up by now. And I have learnt patience. Das geduld was what I lacked when I was younger, but I think I've got it now, or at least I've got a little bit more of it. But I don't know how much patience you need in order to wait for Brexit to start turning round some sort of dividend, some sort of demonstration that there is some benefit, some positive to that thing. Maybe Lord Lebedev can tell us something. I don't know how his Yiddish is, and I wonder what he makes of Rees Mogg. I wonder, and as for HFL Steve, sometimes people put words into my mouth, and I'm not sure I entirely like that. But Tim, thank you. It sounds like you acknowledge that Putin is winning the war, and the failed attempt by the West and NATO to take down Russia is by pouring money and weapons to Ukraine has been an economic and fruitless decision. You need to consider that what the politicians think will happen will happen. We are not dealing with people who have great insight or have a strong grasp of reality. Well, yes, I agree that we are dealing with rather limited individuals, but I don't think, contrary to your opinion, Steve, I really don't think that the Ukraine war was a plan by NATO and the West to spite Putin. If they wanted to do that, they would have done it in 2014 when Putin invaded Crimea. No, I think this is about a new leader of Ukraine who wanted to take a stand against the invasion and who wanted to stand up for his nation. And Ukraine has a distinct identity. There are many people who come from Ukraine who never wanted to go back. I think Chekhov never went back. And who was it now? Bulgakov, I think, never went back. I think they both came from Ukraine. But certainly the Ukrainians I know, and I know quite a number, are wonderful people who are very proud of their heritage and who have a great deal to be proud of. I love Ukrainian culture, the dancing. The Ukrainian opera is great. The Ukrainian ballet is great. In fact, in some ways, I rather prefer their production. I think I was I looking at their production of Swan Lake, I think, which I thought had the edge on the Bolshoi production, and there's a lot of vitality there. I can understand why people in Ukraine would want to resist the invasion by a neighboring state. And I think as long as Mr. Zelensky asks for help, we have a moral duty to supply it. We also have a moral duty to seek some sort of resolution, but not on Putin's terms. And so Mr. Erdogan's initiative early on in the war was a great thing to see and a great thing to encourage. But it was quite clear from the way the conversations were progressing that the only peace that the Russian negotiators would consider would be a peace based on their acquisition of Ukrainian territory. And that one way or another, either by infiltrating Ukrainian society, by seeding it with native Russians, they would find a way to grab that land, that very and something that again I think the West doesn't fully understand. The land in Ukraine is good for only two things. It's good for agriculture and it's good for industry. Think about it. There's a lot of land in Russia which is good for nothing, and there's a lot of politicians in Russia who could be described in much the same way.